As always, one half your host into Craig Allen. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Craig Allen FNP. With me to my left, to your right, Matt Allen. You can find him on the respective socials. We make it really easy at Matt Allen FNP. I'm going to start this video off for you and everybody out there because I want to hear from them down below in the comments section. A healthy Josh Emmett. Would he have fought for the title already?
That's a really hard question to answer. It's hard to say he couldn't. Like, Josh Emmett, I would say he's probably the most powerful athlete in this division, at least punching power-wise. So, no matter what, he's always got that sort of X factor of, hey, I can finish the fight no matter what. But probably, honestly, like, that's the kind of trajectory that Josh Emmett was on.
So for Emmett, he fights Jeremy Stephens years ago, and in that fight, he is all sorts of messed up with his orbital broken, so on and so forth. We had an interview with him on the channel from 2018 where he was getting ready for an ACB grappling tournament, or just after that, sorry. And he still wasn't really medically cleared to fight in MMA, but grappling was cool. They flew him over to Russia, they paid him a ton of money, and that happened. And then it just took a long time to get him back in. So if you look at the 5-on-in for Josh Emmett, and the reason why I start the video that way, he beat Ricardo Lamas 4 years ago. He loses Jeremy Stephens 3 months after that. He fights Michael Johnson, knocks him out. He fights Mirsad Bektic, knocks him out. And then he fights Shane Burgos and beats him by decision. Now, the reason why everything's been stalled out, he had the awful eye injuries, the concussion issues from that Jeremy Stephens fight that kept him out for a really long time. He fights Shane Burgos, and in that fight, he gets hurt. Matt, how bad does he get hurt? He gets hurt very bad.
Like Darrick Rose in 2011.
Complete ACL tear, partial MCL tear, and a sprain. He had a Baker's cyst rupture. He had a focal impact fracture of the femur. He had cartilage defect on the tibia. This all from MMA fighting. I'll throw the graphic up there now. Okay, so that was in the Shane Burgos fight, and that fight was a year and 5 months ago. So then back in this spring, there were articles like, hey, here's Josh Emmett's road to recovery, he'll be back. But why didn't he come back in the spring or the summer? I'll tell you why. Because he had a delay due to complications in recovery from the patella injury. He also fractured his patella bone. Matt, Josh Emmett's had injury woes, and he is 36, almost 37 years old in this featherweight division, taking on a spry young wrestler and striker in 50K Dan Ige. Matt, this is NAIA wrestling of Josh Emmett against the D3 wrestling of Dan Ige. But really, when it comes down to it, these guys are very well-rounded, and they have some fun styles.
Julian Lane would be proud of this fight, because these boys are coming to bang. And I don't really think we're going to see a lot of either guys wrestling in this matchup, although both guys can wrestle, and they are very good at it. When I think about Dan Ige, and especially his place in the top 15, I look at him as probably the most well-rounded guy in the top 15. He uses his wrestling, he uses his volume, he uses his power.
I think Volkanovski is.
Well, no, okay, other than the champion, of course. But when you look at Dan Ige, he's not really great at any one thing. He's just very, very good at everything. And maybe that's a little disrespectful to his boxing, because he is a very good boxer. It just, when you look at him against like Calvin Kattar or the Korean Zombie, you see that there are some limitations to even what he is very good at. That's why this fight against Emmett is going to be really interesting, because Calvin Kattar and the Korean Zombie are not only very good boxers, they are very high volume boxers with the way that they do fight. Whereas Josh Emmett, yes, he also relies on his boxing, but he's really just looking to set up that one big shot. And it's not just like, oh, I'm just saying this because he's done it. Like, that's his whole style. He is fine with losing 2 rounds just to knock you out in the third.
Like against Michael Johnson.
Exactly. Now, you might look at that performance 2 different ways, and I would have to agree with you on both of them. You can say, hey, it's not very good that Josh Emmett got outstruck for about 12 minutes against Michael Johnson, and I would agree with you on that. But the great thing about Emmett is that he always has that nuclear power, whereas, hey, if you slip up for 1 second, I can end this fight. And it's really interesting because I don't know what version of Emmett we're going to get in the cage, but I will say that I worry about him slightly less with injuries, and I only say this because he fought with those injuries against Shane Burgos. Like, people make a big deal that Klay Thompson hit 2 free throws after he tore his ACL. Don't get me wrong, that's really, really cool. Josh Emmett fought Shane Burgos for 10 more minutes on a torn ACL and dropped him and got stronger as the fight went on.
Like, that was a fight of the year contender.
Exactly. And he did things, and he just dug to a level that not many people will ever have to dig to. That was like the Michael Jordan flu game. It really was, because I know I had Burgos. I don't remember your pick on that one, but I really thought Shane Burgos was going to be able to go in there, look really good. And when Emmett hurt his leg in the first round, I thought Emmett was a sitting duck. But what he was able to prove was that he's a good defensive boxer because he can wait for his opponent to come to him, and when he counters with power, there's not a guy in this division who can eat his shots.
If you look at it for Josh Emmett, he has 10 knockdown in his UFC career, 4 of them against Felipe Arantes. Matt, Where's Felipe these days?
Yikes. BKFC.
He's got a fight of the night. He's got performance of the night against Bektic. He had a fight of the year contender against Shane Burgos. It's just that Zhang Wei Li fought Joanna that year, so there was that. There were other good fights as well. But yeah, I mean, I look at this one for Dan Ige. He's got performance of the night bonuses against Danny Henry and Gavin Tucker. And in that Tucker fight, man, wow.
Right down the middle.
Where's the power from Dan Ige? I mean, he used it in that one, so a giant win from there. I look at the odds for this one. Emmett opened to minus 200 favorite. He's minus 187 right now. Ige opened a plus 170 favorite. He's a plus 155 as it stands. And as you said, Emmett had all the injuries out of that Jeremy Stevens fight, and then he comes back and he's won his last 3, and he's looked good. A little slow at the start against Johnson. Start into like the later half until he finishes it. Had a good fight against Bektic where he gets the win, and then his last time out, a giant win over Shane Burgos. But again, tons of injuries. Now, he kind of attributed it to the adrenaline in the fight. Obviously, it hurt, but it didn't hurt that bad. But my goodness, man, I look at those injuries. And yes, it's been a long layoff, but then there's the complications after the fact. And I look at Dan Ige. This guy is spry as they come. So I want to look at the fan vote here on Topology. 676 total votes, 72% Emmett, 64% by decision, 30% by knockout. For the 28% that have Ige, 66% by decision, and 22% by knockout. What are you saying in this one? Because really, I think it's a well-matched fight. It's just one guy has such a decided power advantage.
That's the thing. These guys are very equal. Like, they match up very equally, but Emmett's by far the more powerful guy. And if anybody tells you otherwise, quit listening to their opinion in MMA. This is what I will say about Dan Ige, though. It's not just the injuries. He is the slightly more active fighter, but that might come back to bite him in this fight, because Emmett's so good at, okay, we're in the pocket, I'm going to just engage you, cover up, and the second you're done throwing your shots, if your hands aren't up, and if you're not exiting that pocket in an intelligent manner, Josh Emmett's going to land something on you that you're not going to see coming, and it's going to put you out. I don't care who you are. Like, Josh Emmett's probably the only guy in the division that I think could knock out Max Holloway. Like, probably do it with one shot. That's the type of fight-ending power I think Emmett has. With all the injuries, I'm a little bit concerned. But again, it's not just the pain in the Burgos fight. He fought him on a knee that wasn't there. Like, there were no ligaments still attached. There was nothing still working in his knee. But he was still able to find the balance, just like with the bones, I guess, in his leg, and beat Shane Burgos. Like, that's how good of a fighter Emmett is. This pick's really hard because I can see Ige landing a clean shot down the middle, hurting Emmett, and then just sort of not knocking him out, but just sort of being ahead the whole entire fight. You know, getting off to a good start and just sort of getting so much volume against him that Emmett's never able to come back. But it's so hard to pick against Josh Emmett and his power. I guess I'll pick the underdog in Dan Ige, but this fight to me is as close as any on the card.
I'll get Dan Ige too, and here's why. Thiago Santos had a crap ton of power before he fought John Jones. He injures his knees.
He's coming back.
He beat Johnny Walker, and he didn't look too bad in that one, but he hasn't looked like the same fighter that he was when he was on that run. He was older in his career. His power was his thing and his movement, and that's what it is for Josh Emmett now.
I'll say Cub Swanson, though, did prove us wrong with that.
It hurts my heart not to pick Josh Emmett because, listen, I can see him going out there and flooring Dan Ige, and I'd be happy to be wrong, and I'd be happy that somebody puts a compilation on Instagram like Billy Q did and makes fun of me. I'm absolutely fine with that. The pitter-patter of Dan Ige, whose career numbers actually don't meet the threshold of Emmett's, significant strikes against to 4. If you look at it for Emmett, strikes absorbed per minute 4.02 to Ige's 3.82 given. So again, little discrepancy there. It's very, very tough to beat Josh Emmett, especially with a volume game. But I like Dan Ige with the movement, the fact that he can mix different things in. And maybe he goes out there and throws some kicks too. You'd like to see it out of him, especially in this matchup. Leaves you liable to get hit by the big overhand
I will say this too. If Dan Ige decides to make this a wrestling match, I think Josh Emmett's going to win. I think Emmett is the much better wrestler, and the weird thing about Emmett's just knee and whatnot is you don't really have to worry about bouncing up and down on your knee if you're grappling, and if you decide to grapple with Josh Emmett, I think you're almost going to be doing him a favor in this matchup, so I think that's something to watch out for. If Ige's the one who initiates any of the grappling exchanges, it's probably because he's not liking something he sees on the feet, and that might play into Josh Emmett's game even more.
Big time fight coming up this weekend, both of us going with Hawaii's underdog 50K Dan Ige, but you let us know down below in the comments section who you have there's no wrong answers until Saturday night, and you can tune into Question Mark Kicks on Saturday night, 2 hours before the prelims. The final picks get locked in, and we have a fight companion as well. This is my favorite fight coming up this weekend. I can't wait for it. Keep locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.